I keep about £200 in a bank account and I have a credit card. And the reason is that if I go on a bender, I will have to at some point use that credit card, and she's got access to that. She'll know who I am.
Joe Sealey is a reality TV star, a businessman and a former West Ham footballer. He's also the son of the late great Manchester United goalkeeping legend Les Sealey. Did you feel some sort of pressure being Les Sealey's son?
The truth is, when he got sacked when Harry Redknapp left, I was relieved.
These days, Joe has an enviable lifestyle. He's married to a Real Housewife of Cheshire with a thriving family and successful business interests. But it's been a tough journey.
The one thing I'm never going to get is my dad's never going to make my wife. My wife changed my life as much as he did.
I'm Nicola Sands, and today Joe tells the story of some incredible highs and lows and the pivotal moments that have changed the course of his life. Joe, thanks for coming along to the SMB podcast. So can we go right back to the beginning?
Of course you can.
Your dad was the legendary Manchester United goalkeeper, Les Sealey. So what was it like growing up with such a famous father?
I see that as two different angles. I think that, firstly, he was just my dad. So I never knew any different growing up. My dad was, it was his job. And I was always told, look, this is my job. It's like somebody being a fireman. So it was normal. The people that were around us, the people I was around as a child, I thought was normal. But to everybody else, it was always an interesting topic because people like football. And, I understand now you see these people on telly playing football and you want to be near them. But to me, it was just everyday life. It was my dad.
How old were you when he went to Manchester United?
I was, the first time he went to Manchester United, he went 5 times. I was 7, nearly 8. I was eight.
And were you aware of just how well known he was?
No, not as in because I was 8 years old, but there was an increase of attention. I mean, after the cup final, for example, I going to school. He took me to school the day after, and somebody stopped the car in the middle of the road in London and started clapping as we walked down the street. And I went to a big junior school. There was like 400 kids in my junior school in London, and the playground mobbed him. But he'd always he'd taken me to school hundreds of times probably. But that day, I think our lives changed dramatically, and he was definitely more known.
Isn't it true that Alex Ferguson actually said that your dad saved his career?
Yeah, so I met Alex Sir Alex at the races a couple of years ago, and it was the first time I've seen him in a long time. And somebody said, "Oh, it's Les Sealey's son Joe," and he said, "Oh, your dad saved my career." And I said to him, "Well, I think you saved these," because my dad joined there when he was 32 years old. He hadn't played for a year at Luton, and he had a good career up to that point. He had 8 years at Coventry, 7 years at Luton. Always played in the top league, but it's a normal football career. It was nothing special. And at 32 years old to get the opportunity, and then what happened to him after that for the next 3 or 4 years changed our lives. The reason I'm sitting here today is because of that man, really, I think.
Why did Alex think that your dad had saved his career?
Because my dad was on loan, and the FA Cup final come up, and Jim Leighton was the goalie. And the first game was 3-3, and Leighton hadn't been playing very well. And my dad had played well in a previous game. And he extended my dad's loan for 4 days to get him to the replay, because there used to be a replay then, not penalties. And he played my dad in the cup final replay. And he's still the only player ever to win the cup final, playing one game and being on loan.
And was it then inevitable, Joe, that you were going to go into football having a dad like that?
I think, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think my dad was always one of those who said to me, like, do what you want as long as you're happy. And I think as a kid, you don't get it. You want to play football. But as you get older, I understood what he meant now. But he always also said to me, look, if this is something you want to do as I got older, I can help you, but do it properly.
And was it something you really wanted to do when you were a child?
Yeah, it was the only thing I ever really wanted. The only thing I ever really wanted to do. It probably is still the only thing I've ever really wanted to do, as much as I never thought about the money in football. I never considered any of the outside stuff. I just loved playing football. I still love playing football now.
How much did you play when you were a teenager?
Every day. So when you get past that, when I was playing, when you got past 12, 13, that's when it used to be School of Excellencies come in, and you would train 3 days a week there, play on a Saturday, play on a Sunday, play for your school on a Saturday, or your district or your county, play for the club on a Sunday. And then as you get towards 15, 16, I stopped going to school 2 days a week. So I was in the daytime, Thursday, Fridays with the first team, goalkeepers, and then every night of the week, really.
So it was a real passion to you.
Yeah, I can't explain what it's like. It's like when you live in a bubble with football when you're a kid, and it was the only thing I saw. But it was something I wanted to do. It wasn't like I didn't have other choices. I did, but I had no interest in school. I had no interest in anything else. I just wanted to play football.
And when did you realise that you were potentially professional standard?
I think from the age of about 12 or 13, I knew I was better than most of my friends, let's say. And if I was playing in a school game or a local game, I sort of knew I'd make a difference to that team. I'd win Player of the Year or Man of the Match awards nearly every year and stuff like that. But I think as you're getting towards 15, 16, it gets competitive. People get released, you don't. Other clubs try and sign you. You get more attention. You start getting offered money. You start representing English schoolboys, for example, and you start thinking, "Oh, I've got to be in the top 2 or 3 here because I'm at that level."
And what position did you play
I was a goalkeeper as well.
So how old were you when you actually got signed properly?
So I left school on the Thursday and I went straight into training on the Friday. So I had a contract pre-done. I got offered a few contracts and I took one at West Ham. So I literally from the age of 16, I left school on the Friday and I was in West Ham on the Monday.
And your peers were people like Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard?
Yeah, so I was part of that golden generation at West Ham where we won the Youth Cup final in '99. And so Rio and Frank were a few years older than me. My age group, Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, Leon Britton, Izzy Rickpen. We won Stephen Bywater. Nearly every player in our team played professional football at some level. And we had 5 or 6 internationals, full internationals, later in life, Premier League winners, Champions League winners playing in our team.
What was it like being a football player at that time?
It goes back to what I said before. It is your job. Your life experiences are great in one way, but also on another hand, I didn't know how to do anything. So like I couldn't go to the dentist without going to the club or a doctor's appointment. You get told what to do, where to be, and it's a privilege. Like I wanted that life, so it wasn't that part for me. Wasn't the discipline part of it? Wasn't hard. I loved it. I loved going to training every day.
What did your dad think when you were signed? Was he absolutely delighted?
He was absolutely delighted, but he wasn't happy that I signed at West Ham.
Why not?
Because he was there. So I got offered, the only other club I could live at home and play for was Tottenham, but Tottenham never offered me a contract. They had the other England goalkeeper whose name was Martin Brennan, who actually was my next door neighbour when I was a kid as well. Funnily enough, we both lived on the same street. And the rest of the clubs I could have went to, Charlton, Southend, Sheffield Wednesday, Southampton, clubs like I had to move. And I'd been to some of these clubs and had to live with families in the week and I didn't want to. So I signed for West Ham. And he said to me, listen, you ain't going to get treated any different because I'm here. And actually, you're going to have to make your own way in life. So I lived about 8 miles by car to the training ground. But to get there by public transport was 2 hours. I used to have to go into London and back out. And he said to me, I'm not giving you a lift. You've got to make your own way in life. You chose to come here. And I had to be in probably half hour earlier than he did. And I used to have to get up at 6, get a bus, then get one train into London, train back out of London to Chadwell Heath, and then either walk the mile or get a bus. And then coming home, he'd wave at me and beep and drive past me. And at the time, or sometimes my mum would be driving, because it's only 8 miles, would be driving back to pick me up, or my granddad. And I've got a late birthday, so that was like that till I could drive nearly a year later. But looking back, I appreciate that now. At the time, I thought, fucking hell, like, give me a lift. But I guess now what I think is he was teaching me that life ain't easy. Do you know what I mean?
Did you feel some sort of pressure being Les Sealey's son? Did it cast a shadow?
I think so. It did at West Ham for me. Because he was there at the same time as me for half of the time I was there. And the truth is, when he got sacked when Harry Redknapp left, I was relieved. Because, yes, it did. It give me I'd had a bad injury as well. It gave me a fresh start. Because he was the coach as well. It never went into my home life. Like, you know, however I was doing at football, never crept into how I was treated at home. It was always my dad at home. Always loved me.
It must have been difficult for your mum, having 2 footballers in the family at that level.
I think she was told early on, like, you don't get involved in this, basically. You know, I'm doing it for his best interest. I think there was 2 or 3 times where, when I was probably about 15, 16, when I was training, that he went too far with me 2 or 3 times. I mean, it was once I thought, I ain't playing football no more. But he wouldn't have said, if I would have said I don't want to play football anymore, he would have been fine. But, I mean, both times that I can clearly remember, he'd apologised to me within, 20 minutes of me stopping training.
So he was a tough taskmaster, your dad?
Yeah, but what I think, my dad was tough, he was strict. But what my dad was teaching me is football is hard. football is a game to everyone watching it, but when you're in it, you have to be a man early on because you get released, you start earning money, you get contracts. Your career ends. My career ended at an early age, and he was getting me ready for that. Football, when I was playing, and it is to an extent, is war. So if I'm a goalkeeper at the club and you're a goalkeeper at the club, we're the same age. I want you to get hurt, really, because if you get hurt, it means I'm going to play more.
Very adversarial, isn't it?
It's like you're both going for the same stuff. When you get to the first team, slightly different because you're going for the same. But when you're coming through, you've got to step on people.
What was your highest point, your best time as a professional footballer? Is there a memory that you think that was awesome?
I mean, when I was 16, I was involved, behind the scenes in the 99 Youth Cup final. I didn't play in it. Stephen Bolt was the goalie. I was still at school, but being around that and travelling to games and being at the final was great. We also won the league and the cup when I was 18 against Arsenal at Highbury, the old Highbury. That was great. Playing in the reserves for the first time, playing in a pre-season first team game. There's lots because it's just little bits all the time where you're just improving and improving.
So what happened that prevented you from continuing your career?
So when I was
footballer?
16, in the first week I was playing football full time. I dislocated my shoulder, and I was out for a couple of months. Come back and it went again, and then because they went, you need to have an operation. Now this operation is really severe. You're going to be out for 12 months, and we're going to cut you from ear to ear and reconstruct your shoulder. But there was another type of operation that rugby players have, which your arm can't dislocate, but you lose movement. And obviously playing in goal, I had to have full range. So I had this operation, and I wore do you remember the film Mrs Doubtfire?
I do.
I wore like a Mrs Doubtfire bodysuit on the top half of my body for 6 months. Pinned my arm, so it was across my chest like this. It was this whole suit, and I weren't allowed to move my arm for 6 months. So it was a lot of trauma to my body. And when they took the suit off, couldn't move my arm anymore.
Must have been very frustrating as well.
It was. I mean, so I could get it to I could move, a few inches. And then they spent literally the next 6 months I was in agony because they literally laid me on my back every day, put their knee in my hand, massage and force my arm open, to get my movement back. So I'd missed 12 months by the time I'd come back. And the next year I was fine for about 18 months, 2 years, and one day in training again, the ball come through, routine stuff. I dived on the ball and I spilt it, and I shouldn't have. It was Jermaine Defoe was coming through, and I just stood, as I got up, I just put my hand on top of the ball, to put it back in, and my shoulder went pop, and I knew I was done.
Oh, that must have been devastating.
It was horrendous. I mean, I remember being at Holly House Hospital, which is in Bucker still, where we used to get taken, and I was waiting for my x-ray before they put it back in, and my mum and dad coming through the doors, and I just broke down crying. I knew if it ever went again I was finished. I couldn't keep having that done. I'd end up paralysed.
So what happened after that? Did you go back to football after that?
No, my dad died too about 10 days after that.
Literally within the space of 2 weeks?
Yeah, my dad died straight after, about 10 days. So I never went back. I went back a couple of times to see the physio, and I got offered the chance to come and Ludo McCloskey was the goalkeeper coach, and Ludo's a great guy. Offered me do you want to come in and kick the balls? Do you want to do some training with the other goalies? Basically, do you want to start becoming a goalkeeper coach probably? And I never did. I never went back.
Do you think partly you didn't go back because your dad passed away so soon after that?
I think
injury?
I was never going to play again. At the level I was playing, I couldn't have the operation again. I couldn't miss another 12 months. I couldn't. My body couldn't go through the trauma. I don't think they would have done it. So I was always not going to go back, I suppose. But would I have gone in and become maybe a coach? Maybe.
How old was your dad when he passed away, Joe?
My dad was 43.
Very young.
Yeah, had a heart attack.
Was it totally unexpected?
Yeah, I mean, completely unexpected. He had all these tests. He went out in the morning, and it was a Sunday. He went out in the morning, bought some property that he was doing up in Rayleigh. He went out in the morning completely fine, and at night we got a call and he was dead.
Those two incidents that happened within the space of 2 weeks, you having that injury that finished your football career and your dad passing away, must have had an awful impact on you. How did you cope after two such devastating events?
I don't think I did cope. I don't think at the time I did cope, but I didn't realise it at the time because at the time I did think because I remember previously knowing I couldn't play football and I thought my life was over. But when my dad died, for the first time ever, it put life in perspective for me. I didn't care that much about football when he died. I would rather have my dad back than play football. But, you know, I didn't cope. I was 18, nearly 19, and I thought I had a little younger brother, 2 years, and my mum. And my mum and dad were together since they were 14. She's a really nice lady, my mum, but she's soft. And I used to think, and I was wrong what I did here. I never used to cry. So I used to think, I can't cry in front of my mum, I've got to be all right for my mum. And then I'd get in the shower in the mornings, I'd crawl up in a bowl, and I'd cry my eyes out for 20 minutes, get out, go cut and then be all right. And I shouldn't have done that, because it hurt me, really.
How old were you when this happened?
No, I was nearly 19. I was 18 and a half, 19.
So very young to have to deal with all that. After all this happened, Joe, what did the next few years look like?
Well, I became a sports agent, but my life was really a downhill. My life took a complete downhill turn. I mean, I became a drug addict, to be honest with you.
How did you get involved with drugs?
So, funny story. When I played football, I never drank. I never hanged around with anyone that did drugs. I never knew anything about drugs. If friends from my school smoked weed, and I remember doing this when I was 16, I'd stopped hanging around with them in case breathing it in, I'd fail a drug test at work. That's how naive I was to drugs. But I met some people, and there was cocaine there, and I'd never seen it before. I'd never been near it. And he said, "Oh, take some of that." Like, and to be honest, I did it through probably peer pressure at the time, and I actually thought I'm going to die because I hadn't been near drugs. But what that drug did for me at that point, I stopped feeling unhappy.
It numbed the pain.
It took it away from me. I didn't realise it when I was doing it, but that's what it did. It took how I felt away, and I felt normal again. And I'd end up coming up to Manchester once a month, having a night out, doing some drugs for a little while. I never knew anyone. This sounds crazy because like Essex and London's the capital for drugs, really. I never knew anyone that sold drugs where I lived, which was a good thing until I did find someone that sold drugs. So I'd come up once a month, go on a night out, do some drugs, come home, go to work, like that, pretty normal.
So mentally, you were on a bit of a downward spiral, but professionally, you were still doing very well because you started up as a sports agent.
Yeah, at the time I was working for a company called Stella, who are now the biggest in the world. And my dad was one of the founders of that company. People don't always realise that. So before he died, he'd started sorting out. I didn't know any of this. I'd already had a job sorted at Stella, and he'd sorted out all of like my PFA pension money, and you get paid from being injured and stuff, and all of that had been sorted out by my dad. So I was working at Stella in an industry that I hated because I hated football now. Football, I was near everything I wanted to be, but I couldn't be it. But I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't have any life skills, so I didn't know you could go to a job centre or find work. That's what I did.
And a lot of footballers, ex-footballers, have that problem. They're not sure what to do once they come away from that discipline. Yeah,
and I was given that job. It was a well-paid job for my age. Given a car, given expenses. On the outside, my life was looking good, but inside, I was just fucking dying.
How did you get yourself mentally back on track?
Well, I didn't. I mean, going back, that took years. Years and years until I met my wife. That drug addiction ended up being I was a drug addict. By the time I was 21, I was an everyday user of cocaine. Every day. Literally, I let a drug dealer live in my house for free so I could continue to get drugs.
Was there nobody at the time you could reach out to? Did anybody try to intervene?
There was periods. People said stuff to me. My friends disappeared because I didn't want to hang around with people that weren't like me. And I was quickly an addict I never really changed this. I didn't do it in pubs and nightclubs. You never saw me out and about. I did it indoors by myself. And I was always like that. And I don't know why, but that was the way my addiction was. But no, I went and saw the club doctor when I was about 20, and I said to him, I'm doing drugs. And I said, I think I killed my dad. I said, I think my injury caused my dad's heart attack, which I now know medically is not true because of what happened to my dad. But at the time, he said to me, I can't tell you that's not true.
The doctor said that?
Yeah. Now, as an adult now, if I was talking to a 19-year-old kid, even if I thought it, I'd lie. But he didn't. But I'm not saying that's not the reason I was a drug addict. But all the times I did reach out, I never reached out again then for a long time.
It reinforced your insecurity.
Yeah. And also, the truth is I didn't want to stop at that point either. So let's have that honest. drugs. I mean, I learned to look after myself mentally, or the way I was feeling, by using drugs when at the biggest period in as adult growing up, mentally maturing, all that stress, all that trauma. I took this substance and I didn't feel like it anymore.
So you were self-medicating?
Self-medicated, yeah. That's 100%. Without knowing it, I didn't know it, but that's what I was doing. It masked everything, makes it 10 times worse eventually. But, I went through a period like that till I was about, I can remember what happened, about 22. My mum had gone away for 10 days. And I'd realised that when she got back, I hadn't slept for 10 days. I'd used drugs continuously for 10 days. And I passed out in my office chair and I'd slept for 2.5 days. And I distinctly remember waking up going, right, do you want to die? Maybe I did. Or you got to stop. And I stopped to an extent. I stopped doing it every day. I'm still doing it probably 2 or 3 times a week. I can't remember. But I returned to some more normality because at that point I weren't normal.
How lucky do you think you are to still be alive?
Oh, if you knew some of the stuff I'd done or people, I'm extremely lucky. I mean, there's only one reason I'm alive, is that I met my wife. That's the only reason I'm alive. My mum, everyone that knows me will say that, and I believe that. And through that period, I become what you'd call a normal type user. I was never normal, but a normal type user on the outside. I started socialising a bit more, and
maybe you were like a functioning addict.
A bit more. I was always functioning. I never drunk with it at that point. I never really drunk alcohol. I just literally sniffed coke all day and all night until that point, and it reverted back to a few days a week, maybe 2 days a week, maybe I had a week where I didn't do it. Bit more, not what I call normal.
So you were self-medicating. You were still very successful as a businessman.
Yeah.
But you were self-medicating. What was the point when things changed?
Well, I met Nicole when I was 23.
Where did you meet Nicole?
I met Nicole in a nightclub on a Thursday, 30th of November, 2006.
Okay, so Nicole Sealey, one of the Real Housewives of Cheshire, and a very successful businesswoman in her own right. You met her in a nightclub.
Yeah, on a Thursday.
And how did you get her attention?
So what I used to do, I was using drugs that night. I remember. I used to, if there was a queue at the bar, I used to walk to the front of the bar and say to a girl, "If you let me get my drinks, I'll buy yours." Which always works, because I'm offering to buy your drinks, aren't you? For but it lets me get my drinks as well. And she said no. And no one had ever really said no to me when I said that question. So I started like, come on. Anyway, then I was like, come and have a drink, and then that was it.
How did you know that Nicole was the one for you? What was it about her?
I can tell you what it's like now, but I mean, back then I think it's. I decided about 6 months before that I was going to go, not sell her, but for a year, but I wasn't going to date anybody because I was doing that as well. I was doing things with girls I shouldn't have been doing, And
bit of a Jack the Lad.
I was Essex top shagger, wasn't I? But, but no, I didn't want that life. Morally, I'm quite a morally strong person. I like to live my life as the best I can. And with everything I was doing, I'm the opposite. I was living opposite to what I believe. So I decided all that was stopping. I weren't taking people out. And I met her on a Thursday, and I took her out on a Saturday. I took her out for lunch on a Sunday. I took her to Casino Royale the Wednesday after. Put a Christmas tree up on the 11th December, and I'll come around Christmas night, and I never left.
What was it about Nicole that changed you?
She's a better person than me. I don't know. I think at that point, I was probably looking for something at that point. I can answer that question later on in life, but I still was using. She wasn't a user, so my wife's never done drugs. She very controlled, the complete opposite to me in everything. She's the kind of person who'll have one glass of wine every time and leave half of it.
She knows when to stop.
It blows me mind. She doesn't really get drunk, not often.
How did she help you to come out of the predicament you were in?
She didn't see it, first of all, because people don't, because they're not used to people like me, because I lie, I hide it, I'll do it and you won't know. Because I've not always got to be drinking to do it. So over the years, obviously, she learnt what I looked like or the pattern of my behaviour. But at the start, she didn't know. We got married at 25, and I went to my honeymoon. I come back, and I went in rehab for a week when I was 25 for at the time what I thought was for anger and about my dad. I left after a week. I should have been there a month. I left after a week. And my pattern of behaviour didn't didn't change. I wasn't a nice person. I don't think I was aggressive, because when you use the cocaine, you get so many endorphins that, but then your body can't create it, and you're down and you're moody and you're angry. And I got arrested for kicking a bus door through because he called me saying when he blocked my car in London, and I was getting in trouble, and she'd had enough. She never left me, my wife. She never ever left me. She always saved me, and she should have left me. She should have left me. And
how long have you been married now, Joe?
16 years.
And you and Nicole are both cast members
Yeah.
on the Real Housewives of Cheshire now. Why did you decide to do that?
So they'd asked Nicole for a few years. Unlike me, Nicole's very private. I'm like an open book, but she's quite private. And she'd always said no when she met me the first few times. But then I was trying to buy Macclesfield Football Club when I was in League Two. And I come home and I went, right, this deal's going to happen. And at the time, a lady called Katie Piercy was ringing Nicole. And I said, you need to do that show because I need them cameras at that football club because we'll sell more sponsorship, more tickets, and, we need to do it. And she said, okay, I agree. So I went and met Nicole with her in Audley Edge, and said, I'll do it. And then you go through the process, which I'm sure you know about. They come around your house, they film. There's other people that might be doing it. You don't know if you're doing it or they're doing it. And at Christmas Eve, she got the phone call to say you're in. And my deal fell through. She was on it.
How did she feel when she got that phone call? And how did you feel?
Well, I thought at the time, great, a bit of fun. Well, it's about the women, isn't it? It's not about the men. I think I'm probably on it more than most now, but I think at the time I was like, it was great, it'd be good for you. People should see what you're like.
Yeah, it's a
I'm proud of my
platform.
wife.
It's a great platform, isn't it? It's a great platform to show what you can do.
Yeah.
And are you totally clean now? Have you managed to conquer your addictions?
I've been clean for quite a long time now. I don't really talk about how long I've been clean. And the reason is because when I first went into recovery, I started going to AA when I was about 23. I never got it, but I always went to AA for about 15 years. And I used to hear people come in and say, I'm 10 years clean, or I'm 20. I used to think, fuck off, you liar. Right? But so what I won't say how long I am because of that, but what I can say is today I'm clean. Yesterday I was clean. Tomorrow I don't know about. I live today. So as long as I get through today and I go to bed, I've won.
Absolutely.
And everyone can do that. So if you're out there and you're using, you can do today. That's all you got to do. You ain't got to do 5 years. Yeah, you can't do 10 years. I can't get that far. I've got that far, but I can't. I can't see it.
And also over recent years, you contributed to a book about your dad's life, which we have here. On Days Like These, it's called. So how did that come about? That's
an amazing story. So in 1994, my dad did a book that never was released and I didn't know about. So
you didn't know he'd written it?
No. So there was 14 cassettes. Basically, there was a guy called Les Clitheroe who was my Sunday morning football manager and a teacher from Poynton High School. And he was my football manager when we lived in Manchester. My dad and him become friends, and he decided he was going to write my dad's book. And they'd done 14 cassette tapes of my dad talking and a word processed manuscript of the first book. In 2012, so was that, my dad had been dead 11 years at that point, 2014 maybe, I'm watching my son play football, and Les Clitheroe had a very distinctive look. They call it a pudding haircut, don't they?
Yeah.
So he had a pudding haircut. And I remember looking down the sideline and thinking, that's Les Clitheroe. So when I said Les Clitheroe, I said, it's Joe Sealey, I haven't seen you since I was 10. But we're talking, he went, I've got your dad's book. I said, my dad never did a book here. When he did, come to my house. I went to his house the day after in Poynton. He made me a cup of tea. And he brought down a packed lunch box, sandwich box full of cassette tapes and a word processor copy of the words that were on the tapes. And he said, your dad did this.
Wow.
And I never did anything with them for about 6 years. I've still not listened to the tapes.
Why is that too emotional?
At the time, yes, too emotional. Well, I never had a cassette player, and I did buy one actually in a charity shop in Hull, which actually got used for them to do the book because no one really has one anymore. But I couldn't bring myself to do it because I see my dad on telly, or I probably get spoke to about my dad once every other day. I'll talk about it all day long. I'm more than happy. I'm so proud of my dad. But I see him on. I saw him in that '99 documentary on Amazon at the moment about Man United. I saw some about Galatasaray game. I saw my dad on that, but he never did interviews. He never spoke on telly, so I never hear his voice. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And then as it's gone down the line now and it's potentially being made into a documentary, they don't want me to listen to the tapes at the minute. But I think now, I'm not sure whether I do or don't, but it's something that will probably happen in the past. So anyway, I went around his house, give me the stuff, and it sat in my cupboard for another 5 years, 6 years.
And then why did you decide to get it out and get the book published? What was the trigger point?
I got asked in 2016, Man United played Palace in the cup final again, which was the game my dad played in 1990. You know, I did an interview with the Daily Mirror originally about my dad. I said, I've got this book, took some pictures, and the writer at the time said I'd like to do that book. And I didn't do anything about that, but I met people. And in 2019, just before COVID, 2019 COVID, wasn't it? Or
yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so at the end of 2019, I rang him and he said, I can't do it now, but I recommend Tim Rich. He's done a lot of books. I rang Tim, went and met him, and I liked him. And he was finishing off another book, the Brian Clough book, about the other son he had in Sheffield, or the kid he looked after. He'd done that book. And in COVID, he rang me and said, I finished doing that book, but we can't meet. My wife's got cancer. I'm in like an extreme bubble. So he said, but I live in Sale. I said, okay, what I'm going to do is, Tim, I'm going to drive around. I'm going to put it on your doorstep. I'll knock on the door. When you open the door and pick it up, I'll wave and we'll do it on the phone. And he stayed in that extreme bubble. His wife sadly died. She edited this book for 2 years. I never met the writer for 2 years.
Gosh.
We did it on the phone. And when he going through the tapes and the manuscript, everyone involved with the book at that time had sadly died. Les Sealey died the week I got the book deal. He died. There was no one there to interview. So he said, look, there's 2/3 of a book. I need to interview your family. I need to interview and people that knew your dad. So I said, okay. And he started interviewing me, and I told him what I've told you about drugs and everything else. And he went, no, we need to do the other part of this book about you. So I'm like, okay, no problem. So I told him my story, and it's been intertwined. So he's been very clever. What he ended up doing was writing my part in the past and my dad's part in the present. He's done it seamlessly, I think. It's worked really well. It's become a bestseller.
It was a number one bestseller.
Number one bestseller last year, sports books. It got to the final of a lot of awards. It's had a lot of media attention. I've had a few TV deals offered to it.
I bet you are pleased to have put your dad's story.
That's what I was pleased about.
It's a legacy.
Yeah, it wasn't done for. Or anyone in those books, there's no money in books. So don't think if you're going to do a book, unless you're J.K. Rowling, you ain't making any money. But it's not about that. I just wanted my dad's memory out there, and then to get to where it's got. I thought we'd sell a couple of 100 copies, not 35,000 copies.
Wow.
It went by far greater than I could have ever dreamed. And,
exceeded your expectations.
I'm so pleased for my dad, really, my mum.
And you have actually got a very good business brain, Joe.
Sometimes.
You've bought and sold several businesses.
I have.
And is it true that I can now officially call you Mr Whippy?
Yeah, you can. I've got a third of Mr Whippy's trademarks. Yeah. We're very excited about this. It's the most exciting thing I've been excited about since I played football.
So you own the trademark for Mr Whippy, you and your business partner?
3 of us.
3 of you.
Yeah.
And you've recently introduced some Mr Whippy cakes into Iceland. I think we've got them there. Do you want to show us those? Yeah.
So these are them at the moment. These are the current flavours.
Yeah.
Bubblegum and 100,000 and flake and strawberry sauce, ice cream flavoured cupcake.
Nice. Our bag's the other one with the flake
You
later.
can have
Put
it.
that
Everyone wants
back down.
that. Everyone wants that one.
Have that with a cup of tea a bit later on. Yeah, so how did that come about?
Very, very quick, very unusual story. Again, I mean, I was sitting next to a pool in Dubai at Dawn Wald's house, and her son-in-law Michael had the trademarks for Mr Whippy, and he'd never done anything with it. We all think Mr Whippy makes ice cream. It's never made ice cream. It made ice cream for 2 years between 1958 and 1960.
Really?
This smashed my childhood. You've never eaten a Mr Whippy ice cream unless you bought one in 1958 or 1960. It's not traded since. It's just the name stayed.
Why is it so associated with ice cream then?
Because what happened was the original guy went to America and he saw Mr Soft. He was from Birmingham and he had 6 fans, and he come back and he couldn't get the trademark for Mr Soft. They wouldn't sell it to the license to him. So he started Mr Whippy, and he started making mix, and it got really popular, and he sold it to all the other ice cream vans. But like everything with the ice cream wars, they just ripped him off, started making their own and calling it Mr Whippy. He couldn't afford to fight it, and in 1960 he stopped trading. And they just kept Mr Whippy on vans, and that's it. It's sat on a Unilever shelf ever since and wasn't used any. Michael went to Dubai in 2012, and in Dubai, I suppose it's a little bit like the Wild West with that stuff, and there was no trademark there. And he trademarked Mr Whippy ice cream, and he started Mr Whippy ice cream stands.
And the cakes are doing really well.
We've sold 1 million cakes in the last 4 weeks, yeah.
Amazing. And you've got further plans? What other plans?
Yeah, so we've got donuts that I should be seeing today for the first time.
Nice. Love a donut.
Yeah, Mr Whippy donuts are coming. We've got chocolate bars, milkshakes, iced coffees, looking at iced coffees at the moment. We at the moment can't do ice cream. So that's the one thing with the trademark at the moment, but it's something we probably will be looking towards the end of next year.
At one stage you had some gyms as well.
I've had gyms. I had a group of gyms, 5 gyms. I did that. After my first business, I owned my own sports agency, and I represented Floyd Mayweather, Klitschko's. I did a lot of football club shirt deals and shirt and club sales. I sold that business when I was 32, which is my major business in my life. And then I didn't do anything for a long time. For a few years, I just went on holiday, and it wasn't healthy for me. I was drinking again and stuff, and I thought I got to have a purpose. And I set up some gyms. We grew them to 4 or 5, and I sold them in COVID. Believe it or not, someone bought them off me in COVID, and they've just been sold again. So it's great to see them still going.
Yeah, I mean, you appear to me as a natural salesperson, very, very great with people, chatty. Do you think that's your superpower? Yeah,
I think I am. I think I'm good. I think football gave me that. I'm good in changing rooms. I'm good with people. I'm good at knowing what you want. And I don't think I ever do anything trying to make money. I think money's a byproduct of me doing something I like doing.
What does success look like to you now then, Joe?
My success is my family being happy.
You've got 3 children.
I've got 3 children. They're all adults now. They're all, working finally and doing their own thing. And, for them, they're on their journey, and everyone's got a different journey. One works at the NHS, one's working in fashion, acts I regard, so one's in America playing football. And, my success is for them when I die, but it's not for now. Yeah. They need to earn money and they need to do their own thing. I'm not here to support 3 adults. Do you know what I mean? We'll help them, but my success for me is my wife being happy.
Yeah, and I bet you and Nicole, you're both business minded. I bet you have some great conversations and chats about business. I bet that's.
You can argue about it. But yeah, we've done a few different business. I do business with my wife as well, so sometimes that's good and sometimes bad. I think we both, when we first started, I actually owned a thing called Essex Fashion Week once. That was on. Do you remember it was on The Only Way Is Essex?
Yes,
I owned that, or half of it with her. And we clashed unbelievable because we was overlapping. But I think once you work out what lanes you're in, she does the stuff that I don't want to do. She does the stuff I'm not good at. And I'm better than her at sales. She won't say it, but I am. I'm a better people person than her. But she's better than me overall. And without her, none of my success would have been possible because I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have run it right. But so, yeah, we I don't want to look at spreadsheets or finances. I've got no interest in it, but she has. So...
That's really interesting. Well. Yeah, so stay in your own lane. If you work with your partner, stay in your own lane. Is that your advice?
Even if you work with your partners, yeah. You obviously got to go crossovers. Like now with Whippy, we have a board meeting every Friday. We've all got our own individual ways. We all do everything together, but really whoever your strong point is, you do it. You've got to trust that process. You can't overmanage everything.
Joe, you've had an amazing journey to reach the happy life you've got now, successful life you've got now. What would you like to achieve in the future? Do you have any ambitions going forward? Is there anything you feel that you've not done that you would like to do?
No, I've never lived like that. I think that for me, I just want to stay sober. That's like my one aim in life. The thought of using again or drinking kill me, really. I think I don't think I've got a lot of that left in me, and it destroys my family. It destroys my wife. And I can't do that. That I can't see that look on her face ever again. It's really something I don't want to see. But no, I think going forward, I want to see Mr Whippy grow into something for the next couple of years, and then I'll look to, we'll either keep growing that or that'll get moved on. Like again, businesses. My wife's run a business for 35 years. I've never done that. I'm more of an inner or outer. I know what my skill level is. I know what I can do. But ultimately, you want to exit. That's what businesses are for.
Yeah, build it up. And exit.
Build for me it is, I think. Well, that's been my pattern. The first one I did, I never went into it thinking I was going to sell it. It happened out of the blue. I got a phone call on a Wednesday And I thought someone wanted me up.
Is this a sports agency?
It's a sports agency because I was bought by a big American group. I mean, a conglomerate that spent 500 million buying 50 agencies that wanted to get involved in other sports around Europe. And I got a call from a lawyer, and I thought, oh, fuck off. Who's this? And I put the phone down. And they kept ringing me back, no, this is serious. And, it was serious. And, they bought my business. Eventually we did a deal and, it was life-changing for me at the time.
Why did they want to buy it?
Probably
why were they so keen?
Because I had Mayweather. They weren't that interested in the rest of it. But because I only had the marketing rights. I wasn't his manager. I wasn't anything else. In fact, I never met him. I dealt with his lawyer, John Horono, in America, who I knew really well. And we only ever did one deal with him. He was so expensive to work with. So he was, at the time, I mean, this is, mid-2000s. He was £1 million to come here just to hold your cakes, plus expenses of about 600 grand. So Apple did it once. They launched a gold iPad at Harrods. They did it. And that was it. But because of them rights and what I was doing in the betting industry, my niche became that I had players and I met some people high up in the gambling industry. Took me to an event called ICE, which is like the UK's largest gambling expo in London. And I met some people at SBO Bet and a few other different companies. And I was like, you're spending money in football, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, who does that for you? And they told me the agency, and I said, what does that? I had some meetings with them, and they said, what does that cost you? And he said, well, they charge us 10% of what we spend. I said, okay. I went away, and I thought, I can change how this industry is working. And I went, okay. I went back to him, I said, if you give me the same spend, I'll charge you nothing. Okay? So I'll charge you nothing. And then rung the clubs, and I said, I've got £3.5 million here. Do you want it for your shirt? It was West Ham at the time. Yes, okay, I'm going to charge you a fee. Do you want this money? And they agreed. I went back to SBO Bet and I said, okay, I can get you the same deal on less money. You're going to cost you nothing to do with me. I'll do it all. Went to West Ham, you agree it, sign it, pay me the percentage. So I turned it around. So I made it work as a football agency. And in
Fantastic.
In the end, I did Hull, I did Fulham. We did lots of it. We had about £20 million worth of marketing budget going through us a year at the end. And, because of that niche and the boxers, I think they wanted that. They bought me out, consumed us, sacked everyone. I was meant to stay for 6 months, 3 days. I was fine. I knew that was going to happen.
It's very difficult after the sale of a business to stay.
But they just swallowed us. They were a worldwide conglomerate. In the entertainment industry. I mean, they represent people like Tom Cruise and at the time and people like that, and they just swallowed us. And they swallowed 50 businesses. It wasn't just me.
It's interesting in business, isn't it? Sometimes opportunities come along when you least expect it.
Yeah, the cupcakes were the same. As I said, talking to Michael in Dubai, and he hadn't done anything with it, and I thought, I know I can do this. My other best friend owns the UK's biggest cupcake manufacturer. I rang him. I said, do you want to do this, third each? And he went, yeah. So 18 months later, we've got a business.
You've got a very sharp radar for opportunities. Have you always got that radar on, looking to see what's happening?
I do think I've got that, actually. You've read that well. I am good like that. My wife will say that. I can see opportunities. Sometimes I think that, I'm not saying other people can't see, but it's obvious that they don't, because Mr Whippy sat there for 12 years. I can sort of see where people link up well as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I left school at 16 with no education. I'm dyslexic. I've got ADHD. But I can see something. I can go, an opportunity come to me this morning, and I looked at it and I thought, he's doing it wrong. But I can see this and this, and I can link people.
It's very interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs I've interviewed or met have got dyslexia or ADHD. Possibly it makes you think outside the box more, would you say?
I think so. I'm also a big believer that nothing should hold you back. And I think that, I used to be worried about it, because sometimes when I text or I write emails, my grammar's awful. And I used to say, I don't do emails, you need to ring me. I used to actually not work. I wouldn't work with people that would email me. I do now. And if somebody says anything to me, I say, well, I could say how much money you got. I could say that, but I don't. I have said in a meeting once when someone brought it up, well, I don't have to write, I can. But, it's something that I have to live with, I suppose, and you adapt. But I think that what I do like, and what I say to people now is, everyone's their own choice. My daughter went to university and she's not. I don't believe you have to go to university to be anything, unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a surgeon. I'm more keen to employ people that have left school at 16 and gone straight into work and got 10 more years experience than you have coming out of uni. Business to me is common sense. You know, if I use my common sense and I use my gut, I'll be all right. I mean, there's been times I invested in a restaurant. I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to my common sense, and it failed quickly.
But that can be a good thing. Fail fast. Use it as an opportunity to do something else.
I learned so much from that failure, because what I did was I rushed. I didn't do due diligence. I invested in somebody that wasn't even a chef that said there was a chef. It was crazy what I did. And I went away for 4 days, with work. And when I come back, Nicole had shut the restaurant and gutted it because I was going to keep going because of ego. And it was the best thing that she ever did for me, really, one of the best things she ever did for me. But I think that what I like is hunger. Like when I look, I've got some real key things that I will invest in and what I won't. And one of my main things now is that I'll invest in anything and anyone. My investment's going to pay your salary. I'm not going to do the investment. My wife hates it when I say it, but you eat what you kill. You know, when I started my business, no one gave me money to eat. I had to do deals to feed myself and in my family. So I will do your investment, but you can't take a salary. You can have the first money that comes in. You ain't got to be paying me, but my investment's not for your salary.
So you want to see that commitment from the other side.
Yeah, because you've got to sacrifice. You've got to sacrifice. And, you know, if you fail, you fail as well as I do. My money doesn't just go and you're all right.
People have to have skin in the game.
Skin in the game. You haven't got to put money in if you haven't got it, but you do have to work. But you can have the first 30, 50, whatever we agree, money coming in. That's one. Two, you know, running the business ain't 9 to 5. You know, I was up at 5 this morning. I did an email, a Zoom call meeting this morning. I've done some emailing. I've agreed to go on another podcast. It doesn't matter what the time of day is. I will work, and you need to be the same.
Do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur?
I think everybody thinks they can, but the answer is probably no. I think you have to have an unbelievable work ethic. You also have to know what you're doing. I always tell everybody, make sure you know more about whatever you're about to do than anyone else does. And the other thing is, and I think this is important, and people won't always agree with this, you need a bit of luck. The first time you go into your own business, you need luck. Because, you know, I certainly did. I mean, I remember I had some good clients in my sports agency, but no deals were being done. And I got 50, 60 grand in debt, and the electrical company come and knocked on my flat to cut my electric off, and I wasn't in, and the neighbour told me. And I had nowhere else to go. I had no more money to borrow. I had good clients. I knew I had a business, but no deals. 2 days later, I played tennis with Abramovich. One of my clients went to Chelsea, and all that disappeared. Now that's luck, as well as hard work. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think it's when talent and hard work meets a moment of opportunity? Is that what luck is?
I think luck sometimes is luck. I think the famous quote is the harder work, the luckier I get. That's true in some aspects, but that for me, that week was a make or break. If that tennis game didn't happen, I wouldn't have done that deal, and I would have went bankrupt. I wouldn't have been. I still would have been. I don't know what I'd be doing now, but my brain would have been the same. But that luck got me over that period.
Do you think your ability to network and connect with people has been a great factor in your success? Because you've done deals on the tennis courts, over dinner, just through meeting people. Yeah,
I think that I'm good with people. I've got a knack of remembering what everybody does. I tend to sort of automatically know what somebody wants. And then the other thing I will do, and this is, I think, a top tip, I think, for anyone who wants to do any business, I will ring or ask anybody for anything. And if they say no, I'll ask again. And if they say no, I'll move on. Do you know what I mean? But I don't care whether I've got to get hold of Donald Trump or Alex Ferguson. I will ring people until I get to that person. And I won't dither around it. I'll say, I'm ringing you because I want to get hold of so-and-so. Can you help me?
Would you say then being clear about what you want is a really important thing to remember in business? I
think being clear for what you want, but don't be frightened to hear no. A lot of people are scared to hear the word no. But if I don't ask, it's a bit like when I met my wife. If I don't ask, I won't get. So, you know, you'd get nothing for not asking, but you could get everything from asking that question. I suppose some people now will walk past me in the street and really want to talk to me about something they've got an idea for, but they won't always stop me. Some people will. Now, I would always listen to that idea. I would always, when someone messages me on Instagram, say, send me the idea. I would always say that. I might say no to your idea, or you might not like the truth, you know. There's another, I'll tell you a story. There's another, I won't say, there's a housewife, at the minute wants to do something. She come and saw me with it, and I said, I like the idea, but your product's fucking terrible. I don't like the name, and it won't sell. But if you do these two other things, I'll get involved in it, and I'll sell that into retail. Not a problem for you. You know. But I said, are you ready for me to tell you that? And they went, yeah, tell me the truth. Told them, and then we'll see what happens. Do you know, it's people want honesty. Tell them. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to ask.
Do you think some people are just not cut out to have a boss and are much better off being their own boss?
Yeah, I think I was like that. I don't like 9 to 5. I still don't. I didn't like being told what to do. I think I was always going to do my own thing. In whatever way. It just so happened over years, I never thought I'd do half the things I've been involved in. I mean, I've got investments in 22 businesses now, you know, in all different things, running from an electrical installation company, recruitment, food, retail, shopping channels, you know, football. I've been involved in so many different industries, but actually, most things are the same that I'm involved in. It's a product or a person I'm selling, you know.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make?
Not knowing what they're doing before they start. I think that's the number one key. You know, whether you're investing or you're doing the business, you better know. I said to you before, you've got to know more than everyone else about your business. Because if you don't, you're going to learn on the job and you'll lose. You know.
And how good are you at actually doing deals? Is that a skill?
Deals. I think I am. But it's funny because I'll go. So I've got another partner called my daytime wife, Phil. Yeah. Who I've got Mr Whippy with, but we've got lots of different things together. And he's a little bit like my wife. He likes numbers and spreadsheets. So like we'll do deals, and I'll say to him, right, here's all the spreadsheets. I don't even look at it anymore. I do the same with Nicole. You tell me if that part of this business is right. I'm going to sit here with a person. I'm going to go meet them, or I'm going to go into the office and see what they're like. So if he says to me, yeah, the numbers are right, and I say, well, he's a twat, we're not doing the deal. But if he says the numbers are right and the person's a good person, I feel like getting to know them, we'll do it. You know, we do it off a gut and the numbers. So I think it's knowing what you're doing and knowing what works. You haven't got to be everything to everyone.
How do you manage your work-life balance? Because I know you and Nicole like to go away on holiday, but how difficult is it to get away when you've got so many business commitments?
I mean, running a business is different to doing investments. Is firstly, I only have to deal with certain things when I'm doing investments. Maybe some advice. When I'm running a business, well, you've got to take your calls and you've got to take your emails. That's it. It doesn't matter where you are. That doesn't stop. When I had the sports agency, I did a deal in China. Well, I'd have to be up in the middle of the night because of China. I'd do a deal in America. I'd have to be up. You know what I mean? You have to do what you've got to do. And if you limit, I'm on holiday, I can't answer the phone, well, your business ain't going to work. And you certainly ain't going to be business with me. But you just have to get through the time. And, you know, but by doing those things, you get to do all these great things. I get to go to all these wonderful places with a person I love. And I get to, you know, not have to worry about that time when my electric was going to get cut off. I've never had to worry about that again. You know, and that freedom, I suppose, is what you aspire to have without knowing it.
And do you think the fact that you have had those tough times has made you appreciate more what you have now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, maybe I would care, but I don't think I care. I don't care about the money. So I do this. A lot of people are fucking amazed that I do this. So every penny I earn, I give to Nicole. Right? Every penny. I mean, I sold that sports business for an 8-figure sum. I give it to her. For one reason, the reason is drugs. So I keep about £200 in a bank account and I have a credit card. And the reason is that if I go on a bender, I will have to at some point use that credit card, and she's got access to that. She'll know who I am. Where if I've got access to the millions, all the money I earn every week, I can do what I want. So I give everything to her. My business partner thinks I'm like abnormal, but I live so simple. The other week I was with him, I said, I can't get a sandwich, I've got no money.
Really?
Yeah. But that's what, and then I'll ring Nicole up and I say, I need 200 quid. She won't ask me why. She'll go, all right, I'll send it to you. But I do like that. Like, if the money that comes in, we get paid every week by Whippy, you know, that money comes in on the Friday, and the next 10 minutes I'll send it to her.
It makes you feel more in control, life is more manageable.
She's, everything I earn, everything I've got is hers.
Which entrepreneurs do you admire, Joe? Do you have an idol?
I admire my wife. I actually do. I mean, her work ethic and her background's completely different to mine. She's achieved things that, one, I probably never were going to achieve, and I don't want to be honest with you. She's the only person I listen to, the only person I look up to. I live very easily. I'm very, I don't know what the right way of putting how I am. I don't think about any of that. I don't look at Richard Branson and think I want that. I don't. I'm very happy with what I've got. I don't want to be a bit. I've got another friend he's worth fortunes. He's worth hundreds of millions. One of my best friends. He won't stop. Right? He's got all the money in the world. He won't stop.
Why do you think that is?
Because he wants to be a different type of entrepreneur to me. He wants to be a billionaire. I don't. I've got enough money now to live how I want to live for the rest of my life. And all I want is to spend time with her. So as long as she's happy, I'm happy doing anything. I mean, it's so weird. I mean, I've got some oddities and people don't realise what I'm actually really like. I don't like going out, very
Really?
much. No. I don't really like socialising. I like being indoors, watching the telly with her. Like, I flew back from, I said to her, this is how mental, this is how bad my head is, and this is why potentially I'll kill myself. But, you know, I won't kill myself, hanging myself, but addiction. I mean, like yesterday I flew back from Italy and we weren't sitting together. I was like 5 rows in front of her. An hour and a half into the flight, I'm inside, I'm like half dying, I feel alone. I had to walk back and say to her, I know I'm not normal, but I'm lonely.
Oh.
Like, I can't stay indoors at night. This is so crazy that I'm talking about this, but I'll talk about it. So I'm just like, you know, I'm a big guy, right? I'm successful, but no, I'm not really scared of anything. I can't stay at home by myself. If I stay at home by myself, there's a 90% chance, if I'm going to relapse, it'll be then.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, Phil will come and stay with me, right? Or she won't go somewhere because she worries about me. It's a real problem for me. But as soon as she's indoors with me, even if she's like, I said to her the other day, like, even if she's on the phone or she's just making noises or, I don't know, drinking a can of Diet Coke sitting there, she ain't got to be talking to me. I just like that she's there. It's crazy, but she's filled a hole in me that's always been there, I think. And
But you've got that self-awareness
yeah,
now
I know,
to know
yeah.
that, which
So,
is a
but,
good
you know,
thing.
the biggest fear I have is that she dies. I mean, is the before me.
Don't think about that.
But
Don't think
that's what she says to me. What's your biggest fear? I say she dies. I say to her, that's the deal. The deal is, I die first.
Oh.
No,
Well, hopefully you'll both have a very long and successful
so.
life. But one thing you do, on a lighter note, is on TikTok you do a lot of menopause updates.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
about what it's like living with a menopausal woman, which is actually hilarious. I mean, but in a way, you're raising awareness of what it's like for
not
men.
on purpose, but it was nothing. That's become probably one of the things I'm best known for, strangely enough. But I didn't do any of it on purpose. So literally, I'll tell you what I was doing. I was going to Forever Unique with CC and Sandeep, and we was early, and she was right bad. She had a terrible mood, menopausal mood, and I said, "Come on, I'll take you to Nando's to cheer you up on the way to this meeting." And I took her to Nando's, and it was raining, and I dropped her off outside the door, and as she got out, she went, "You used to be nicer to me." Shut the door. I went and parked 3 miles away and walked in the rain back, and I said, on TikTok, is there a self-help group for men living with women with menopause? Because this is fucking mental. Blah, blah, blah. And it went, I wasn't even on, I think I'd only been on TikTok 2 days. It went, brrr. And actually, your husband,
Yeah, my husband Steve.
on the third post, said to me, "You're doing this thing with your eyes," where you say menopause update. Or I said something like that, but he said to me, "You got to keep doing that."
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because at the beginning you sort of say time for you look up.
Yeah, and he said to me, "You've got to do that.
Yeah.
Keep doing that." And at the time I'd done like 2 or 3 because I'd never done anything on social media that went so well. So I just kept talking about menopause, and it was nothing on purpose. And Steve said to me, "Keep doing that," and I kept doing that, and I still do that now. And it's gone. You know, I've had millions and millions of views on it, and a lot of people think you're gonna. I get no hate really. I might get 1 comment out of like 10,000, but I'm followed by 90% women aged. I call them my dying demographic, 40 to 75. Menopause women go, "Oh, I do that," or "I agree with that," or husbands that say that. I call the men menopause survivors. But it's been great.
Yeah, and it does. It's very relatable. Very relatable.
Yeah. And she never knew for the first 6 months, so I got away with it. I was in a traffic centre and someone slapped me when I was with her, And she said, I'll give you, this woman was like mucking about, slapped me and said, I'll give you fucking menopause man, menopause woman, or something like that. And she went, what's that? I said, someone showed me something in the hairdressers actually the other day. I'm not like, she don't like people talking about it, so. But I said, look, read the comments and like have a look. And then she looked at it and she went, all right. There's been ones where she's gone, I don't like that. I said to her, you've got access to all my accounts, you delete it if you want to delete it. I'm not going to delete it, but you can.
How is Nicole at the moment?
She's okay.
Have you got a menopause update?
I have got one. I have got a little one. Well, a bit more of an example of women and married, so it's time for a menopause update. So yesterday when I got off the plane, I was at the carousel where the bags come off, and this Italian couple, young couple, were in front of me, and he had a little bag, and he got her every bag off of it, but then she reeled it, and she went, oh, thank you so much for lifting that off the carousel for him, and kissed him. I said, and she said, I love you. And I thought, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And I'm in Gatwick. I've got 2 big suitcases. She's not even there. And another bag and a backpack on. I've wheeled those 2 big suitcases and all the other bags from Gatwick onto Gatwick train to London, across London to Euston, Euston to Manchester, Manchester to taxi and home. And do you know what she said to me? Nothing. Nothing. And then last night I'm sitting there after I've done all that. She said, oh, you done all the bags, didn't you? I said, yeah. She went, can you get me a coffee? I said, are you having a fucking laugh? And I said to her, do you know what happened today, Nicole? I was at the carousel and these this nice Italian couple were there. I told her the story. And she went, yeah, but that's not your life. And I went, no, it's not. Do you want a coffee?
You two together are so funny. You and Nicole, you really
we got
are.
great. We laugh a lot. We do laugh a lot. People don't actually know what she's like.
Yeah, and I think humour. You've got a great sense of humour. Being able to laugh at things really helps get you through, don't you think?
I don't know what it would have been like in menopause without it, really. Because perimenopause was the worst. We didn't know she had that, and there was a year or so, and I thought, what was going on with my wife? It was like, but I was more worried about it because her dad's got dementia. And she was forgetting things like people's names and like, she was telling me stories going, do you know when we went there with the, and I was thinking, what's they with there? What are you talking about? What people? But it'd be like, one of the kids to the park. It was like something like that. And I was really worried. I took her for tests. I said, like, we need to go for tests because your dad's like, he got it young, like 60. And that's when we found out she had perimenopause. And actually that brain fog's gone now. She hasn't got that so much, but
yeah,
that's how we found out.
I can definitely relate to that. It definitely is a thing.
Yeah.
The good thing is these days there's so much more awareness. It's very interesting to have a man's perspective.
Well, I think the past generations, my mother, no one spoke about it, did they? Like, I didn't even know about it. I mean, literally, this has all happened by accident. I'm not saying I know everything now, but I've got a fair idea.
Yeah.
I live in it.
Yeah, definitely. I do. My 14-year-old son, he even knows about it. I mean, I say it's very hot. Is it the menopause, Mum?
Yeah,
she was hot
last night. She was hot last night. Don't touch me. I'm hot.
Okay. Well, you've been incredibly successful in business as well as football and as a reality star. What do you think your dad would think about your life today?
Don't think I can say what I think he'd think I've been a complete at some points. But I'd like to think he's proud of me. The one thing I'm never going to get is my dad's never going to meet my wife.
It's okay.
But I think that I would have loved that. I would have loved him to see my kids. I would have loved him to meet my wife. Because my wife changed my life as much as he did.
It's interesting, Joe. I mean, your dad, he was a star, talented, and he was such a huge influence on the beginning of your life. Nicole is also a celebrity, well, as you are, and she's a very talented businesswoman, and she's a huge influence on your life now. It's almost like you've had these earth angels guiding you along. Do you feel that?
Probably. I mean, my best friend Phil says to me, "You're famous for two things, Joe." It makes me laugh every time. He says, "Your dad was Les Sealey and your wife's Nicole Sealey." He says it in meetings. I remember business meetings with him and he says it. But it's true. I think that, I mean, how I've met her as she has married me, stayed with me, I am the luckiest man in the world, because she deserves nothing but good things. She is so caring, so loving. She saved me. She knocked, when I used to go on benders, she would, because I turned my phone off, she would drive around to hotels so she could, because I used to go to a hotel and lock myself in a room and drink vodka and sniff drugs for 3 days by the end, until she literally kicked the door down and dragged me out of the hotel room. She's done that numerous times. I should be dead. If it weren't for her, I'd be dead.
You've been on the most incredible journey to reach the happiness that you've got today. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear your story. And I'm sure, like everybody else, I wish you every success for the future. Lots of happy times to come. And thank you so much for being so open and honest today.
Thank you for having me.